By the end of this tutorial, you will have a custom repo mod that we will build in Visual Studio and enable via BepInEx. We'll do this by creating a project in Visual Studio with 3 custom scripts. We will compile this into a .dll file that we will place in a subfolder we create in our repo data folder. And ultimately, we will, when we launch the game, have access to a console to which we will print our key inputs as well as the item data for the level that is generated. Now, is this in itself some crazy exciting thing? No, but it will serve as a foundation that we can expand upon in future videos. Specifically, I want to see this evolve into a mod that will allow us to summon certain items or enemies on demand and even start applying custom behavior to these entities. So if that sounds interesting, follow this tutorial to build your foundation, and like and subscribe so that you can see future videos in which we expand upon this mod. Now, let's get all of our installations out of the way up front. I assume you've already got the game installed, so not including the game, we've got 3 installs to make. It's Visual Studio 2022, Harmony, and BepInEx. I've tried to streamline this a bit for you by posting a .bat file that is available in the description. If you don't want to use the batch file, you can also find the individual links to BepInEx, Visual Studio, and Harmony in the description, as well as in the README file. But the next couple steps will assume you're using the batch file. When you launch this .bat, you will be first prompted to supply the file path for your repo.exe. This probably lives in a file path similar to mine, which I will list here. Grab the file path and in the command prompt window, input your repo file path and push enter. Then enter the file path where you want to install the Harmony DLL and Visual Studio. Make sure it is someplace where you can easily find it later, as you will need to reference the .dll in our Visual Studio project. You should be prompted to download the Visual Studio installer, so click through those prompts and install the software. If it prompts you to select options for different workloads, you're going to want to select the .NET desktop development workload. You should now have a BepInEx folder in the same file path as your repo.exe. We do need to trigger BepInEx to create some additional subfolders for us, so go ahead and launch repo. You can immediately close out of it after reaching the main menu. We're strictly launching it to prompt BepInEx to create new subfolders. So the last thing we need to do for our setup here is go into the config subfolder that was created and open BepInEx.cfg. You can open this with the Notepad app. You're going to change the false value to true under the logging.console heading. Make sure to save your changes before closing out of Notepad. Now you are all set to install and run custom plugins, including the mod we're about to build. So go ahead and launch Visual Studio 2022. Click Create a New Project. We're looking for the .NET Framework class library. Click Next. Enter a name. We're going to call it Repo Starter Mod. Select a location and select .NET Framework 4.8. Click Create. And you're looking at your first project. So first we want to add our references so our mod can talk to Unity, BepInEx, and Harmony. So before we even start writing any code, we're going to right-click References, click Add References. I do have several here that I've recently used, which is why they're populating. I assume you will not have this list. So let's go ahead and find yours. Click Browse. You're going to find your repo folder. This is the same one we found earlier with the .exe. Go to Repo Data and Managed. You will want to add assembly C#. Assembly C# first pass. You also need Unity Engine.ui, Unity Engine 4 module, Unity Engine Input Legacy module, and Unity Engine. Click Add. We're now going to grab our Harmony DLL. Mine lives in F, Documents, Mods, Harmony, and Lib. Net Standard 2.0, Harmony DLL. But yours is going to be wherever you prompted it to be saved in the command window when you used the batch file to install it. Click Add. The last thing we need to reference is BepInEx. This will live in the same place as your repo.exe. Go ahead and click into BepInEx 4 and should be here, BepInEx.dll. Click Add and click OK. You should now see all of your references listed in the right pane under the references dropdown, so make sure yours looks like this. You can remove this starter code. Go ahead and rename this default class 1.cs to StarterPlugin.cs and paste in the code provided in the readme file. You will notice an error indicated by the red squiggle here on the StarterModHandler value. That's because it's referencing a class that we haven't created yet. So you can ignore that, it will be resolved. But let's break down this code firstly. At the top, we're importing the libraries that we need. BepInEx gives us access to the plugin framework. Harmony Lib allows us to patch game methods. Unity Engine and Scene Management give us access to core Unity features like game objects and scene events. This BepIn plugin attribute registers the mod with BepInEx. We give it a unique ID, a display name, and a version number. That could be whatever you want. That's just how it's going to appear in the console log. BepInEx uses this to recognize and load our plugin when the game starts. On this line, we define a class called StarterPlugin and inherit from base Unity plugin that's required for any BepInEx plugin. It is how BepInEx hooks into Unity. Await is a Unity lifecycle method that runs as soon as the mod is loaded. This is where we initialize everything. This line logs a message to the BepInEx console to confirm the mod was loaded. Again, you could make the actual text that the console log uses whatever you want here. Next, we create a new Harmony instance. Patch all tells Harmony to activate all Harmony patched classes in our project. So if we wrote any patches for game methods, this turns them on. On this line, we hook into Unity's scene load system. Every time a new level is loaded, our onSceneLoaded method will be called. And that method is here. This method runs each time a new scene is loaded. We use it to spawn our mod's logic handler, which is essentially a game object that stays live between scenes. This will check if the game object already exists. It is there just to prevent duplicates. Assuming it does not exist, we create a new game object and attach our StarterModHandler script. Again, we have not yet built that. Don't destroy on load. Keeps it alive when the game changes scenes, so our logic continues running. In the context of the game, this means that as you move from level to level, it'll stay persistent. And that's the core of our plugin. We register with BepInEx, initialize Harmony, listen for the scene loads, and spawn our handler logic once per scene. This structure works as a clean and expandable foundation for almost any repo mod. Now, let's go ahead and add our StarterModHandler class. This is the one we are already referencing here that's currently giving us an error. So right-click near the top of your right pane where it says Repo Starter Mod, hover over Add, and click Class. We can name it here. Let's call it StarterModHandler. And click Add. We can replace the script that has populated by default with the script from the README file. Just like last time, at the top, we're importing the libraries that we need. This class is called StarterModHandler. It imports from MonoBehavior. Here, we declare 3 variables that we'll use to track the game's level loading state. This Boolean keeps track of whether the game's level has fully finished loading. We'll flip it to true once we detect the level is ready, so our mod doesn't run its logic too early. These 2 lines are for reflection. Since we don't have direct access to the level generator class from the game's codebase, we use reflection to find the class by name and get a reference to its static instance field, which tells us when the level is generated. So in short, These fields allow us to detect exactly when repo finishes loading a level, and that is when we activate our mod logic. We have one more class to create, so again, just right-click up here, add class. We're going to call this one ValuableLoggerPatch. The game code tends to refer to items as valuables, so we're just sort of matching the language of the game here. We're just referring to the items in the game. We're just going to paste over that default script. Let's break this code down a little bit. Again, we are importing the libraries that we need at the top. This line tells Harmony to hook into the spawn method of the valuable director class. That is a class that exists in the game code. This prefix method runs before the original spawn method. It gives us access to the method's arguments. Here, underscore valuable is the item game object. This line, every time a valuable is spawned, we print its name and spawn path to the console. And here we're filtering for specific variables. So if the item keyword contains base or diamond, it will be called out here on the console as a recognized valuable prefab. This is, again, just an extra little bit of script to kind of help us build some familiarity with writing script and printing certain information to the console. There's no specific reason that we are calling out these two items right now. And that's it. That's all the script we need for our introductory purposes. You'll note that our scripts have an asterisk up top on their respective tabs, indicating there are changes that have not been saved, so make sure you click through the tabs and click Ctrl S until all those asterisks are gone to ensure that your project is saved. And then we can compile the .dll and add it to our repo data folder. Just press Ctrl-Shift-B. You should see this output at the bottom, and you can see that it's successfully built to this file path. So let's go ahead and grab it. I'm just going to copy and paste from that output there. We can sort by date modified, which should put it right near the top. So here's our repo startermod.dll. And now we just need to put that in our repo data folder in a different file explorer window. Go ahead and navigate back to your repo folder. Go to BepInEx, plugins, and I'm going to copy and paste our newly compiled DLL into this plugins folder, and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and launch the game. You can see our console here. It recognized our starter mod plugin, and in fact, we're actually going to take this into windowed mode so we can see all of this at the same time. You can see it's already logging my inputs here. Let's just get into a single player game. It's continuing to monitor our inputs. It is also telling us the level that's loading, which is the manor. And you can see it told us all of the items that have spawned in. And per the filters in our script, it is calling out the valuable diamond as a recognized prefab. Looks like there's a couple of them here, as well as the valuable vase prefab. We now have a pretty decent foundation to add some really exciting stuff. We can expand upon our mod by adding additional classes to our existing script, which already knows how to properly hook into the game and identify when a level has been generated, and print the information we instruct it to the console. So if you want to iteratively expand and improve upon this mod, feel free to like and subscribe for future tutorials.